It's quite amazing, the forfeiture of potential and the dismissing of individuals who are walking priceless treasures because of the constraining and paralyzing effects of stereotypes. As I reviewed the invitation to come and to be a part of this incredible opportunity to share and to be in such a wonderful and dynamic and creative think tank setting, I couldn't help but be impressed with the theme, the other things. And as I reflected, of course, being diligent and doing the responsible, necessary amount of background and research, it was quite amazing to me how they were able to capture in 1962 our wonderful and dashing president with such Shakespearean, romantic verbiage, cast a vision for our country to be very motivated and excited about going into outer space. Before 35,000 plus at Rice University, it was amazing, not only at that time, but as we compare what we see political leadership now, it even stands to meet the bar, that test even today. But today I want to maximize my time with you and really submit to you something that I think would be quite contrasting. And that is, unlike President Kennedy, where we seek to go to outer space, I want to talk to you for just whatever amount of time I may have left about the inner space. With what I've been given as a challenge in the year 2014, I was very humbled and privileged to be given an opportunity, incredibly, to come back to my hometown, Riverside, where I was born and raised, and to have the opportunity to serve in ministry. At the age of 8, 12, I was a child prodigy with being able to speak and to be a preacher. Coming from a dynamic African-American background, it was very remarkable, the sense of mentoring that I was able to receive and just the overwhelming sense of encouragement that those who had my best interests and really had a surrogate love for me poured into my life and enabled me to see beyond the ceilings that otherwise would have polluted my sky mentally. And so as I was trying to get settled and getting excited about what we might say in clergy terms or pastoral vernacular, getting ready to embrace a honeymoon period with launching my third church location in my hometown after not being here for over 15 years, there was proverbially a rude awakening. Very good friend of mine who I grew up with and still is, in my own estimation, my closest and dearest friend, who's a part of the Riverside Police Department, brought to my attention some very disturbing and earth-shaking realities that weren't true when I was growing up in our neighborhood. And that was the adversarial and the discorded interactions and relationships that had grown between the African-American and the Latino Hispanic communities. Now, mind you, being a child of the mid to late 60s, growing up in the 70s, in my personal reference of the way I was brought up and nurtured and what I experienced, I categorically looked upon them as the wonder years. Our neighborhood was close-knit, everybody knew everybody, and in some way, unwritten, it was kind of inferred and felt and experienced and exhibited. Everyone was family, no matter what ethnicity. Now, mind you, where I grew up on the east side of Riverside, it was a product of minority, people of color, African-American and Latino Hispanic, because everybody couldn't live where they wanted to live in the city of Riverside up until that time. That's where the people of color had to live. And so when I was made aware of the decline of harmony and mutual respect and neighborly qualities, it rang very disturbingly down inside of me, and I didn't want to face this challenge. I didn't want to necessarily take on this saddled responsibility, but I could tell that there was going to be no way I could avoid it. And through stakeholders and people who had played a pivotal role in my own personal life and development, I felt compelled. Matter of fact, if I could just be frank and candid, I felt thrusted into this position of leadership. And so the Eastside Reconciliation Coalition was born, otherwise known as the ERC, and we began to lobby, solicit, and collaborate with over 25 churches, pastors of Latino, African American backgrounds and ethnicities to be creative in bringing about harmony and mutual respect and goodwill. Well, let me get back to where this takes me, as I said, about the other things inspired by President Kennedy, inner space. Organically or dynamically, without any choreography, it began to show some things visionarily that I didn't even know. There was no textbook I could reference. Just through the dynamics of my own interaction and experience with faith and trusting in the great divine word of God, I began to see some things fall in line. And this is where I came up with my theory or my personal conviction about the roadmap and the way in which I would cast a vision to help bring two conflicting communities harmoniously back together. And it's called inner space. Number one, to really explore inner space, you have to have inclusion. And today we need to work and be more energetic with being genuine and sincere about being inclusive. There's a great deal of individuals who grow up with a truncated sense of self-esteem because there's so many subtle, overt, and blatant messages that scream at them, you're not qualified, you don't look right, you don't talk the right way, you don't dress what is appropriate, kosher, or acceptable, and as a result, we keep you excluded. You didn't come from our area. And I know many of us would like to think that we're more inclusive than what we are, but the tragedy of the matter is this, we're not. We could still do a great deal of improvement in that area. We heard very stimulatingly from the woman from Africa, as she was saying about her program, the inclusion of the male and female aspects of how that would raise up the equity in women all across our world. But that just doesn't go for gender. It also goes for all those who would otherwise have roadblocks and barriers. I believe this with all my heart, that the genuine thesis that is behind all that we hold precious in America as far as democracy is sincere and true inclusion. The great diary of our nation is a perpetual, engaging, breathtaking saga of inclusion. America's America because we are inclusive with our ideologies. Where would we be if we weren't? We wouldn't be here today. This university is inclusive. And until we come to grips and really sit down and have those types of meaningful, probing, and very challenging conversations that would break up the fallow ground of us not really recognizing, but being lost in bubbles of denial, we will never really truly reach our potential of inner space. Number two, investment. We have to have investment. And investment just isn't as we would think really quickly about finances. Investment is way more than that. This right here, TEDx, is investment. You taking out your time, the forfeiture of doing other things that you could easily justify as a priority, but yet and still you're here, shows that there was something within you that warranted and justified this as an expenditure of your time as a good investment. This is something that we must continue to apply all of our abilities, talents, insights, and those things that we would know would enable us to really reach our potential, and that is to see more creative avenues and ways we can invest in people. You show a person that they really mean something to you when you invest in them. I can't even begin to go through the litany of names and the preponderance of people who just took out time to help me along the way. I remember my godfather who taught me how to tie my tie. That may not seem like a big deal, but he invested something in me that I will forever associate and connect with him, although he's gone, not with us any longer, but it made a direct contribution to my personal self-esteem. Dr. John Maynard Keynes came up with the economic theory that is still true today, and that is we live in a world with unlimited wants, but we're facing limited resources. And as we get to those places where we're truly able to come and say, this is warranted of my investment, we will not be able to make greater gains and see the opportunities and progress that is latent within us, hidden within us. There's 3 areas of investment that I want to highlight and I want to bring out. Number 1, we need domestic investment. So many people come from homes and settings that leave them inherently at a disadvantage. And this is where I come in with a strong, unmovable, unshakable conviction about how the church, houses of worship, areas of religious insight that help people who may be lacking or have huge vacuums in their lives that put them at a distinct disadvantage. When you don't have a domestic setting where you are told you are important, you value, you're not an accident. No matter what it is that you would apply and use and state and say that would reference or even come close to what I'm trying to submit to you, you can't take away from the momentous importance that domestic investment has. And when it's not there, it's devastatingly missed. Number 2, community investment. We all have heard the proverbial statement, it takes a village to raise a child. That is very true. This university is a village. You can't get your academic achievements without community. And when we see polarizing verbiage and those things that are being submitted even now upon our political stages and our presidential campaigns, it ought to be quite alarming to us, because that ought to be a deep inventory reflection of what our community should be about. Third, of course, financial. Hard, cold cash. Where you place your money shows a lot about what you have as your character, what you have as priorities, how you spend it, how you apply it, how it's meaningful, how it's meaningfully used and expended. It says volumes about we as a people and you as a person. Third, I want to talk to you about intensity. And intensity is mainly more to say focus. There's so much that I see now that I didn't see when I was growing up, and even in my parents and my grandparents. We have a lack of intensity. I'm very passionate. I don't know how to be melancholy. I don't know how to be blasé. I'm very passionate. I'm very intense. It's just something within my DNA. When I believe that God made me, I believe Lieutenant Graham, he made me on Monday when he was at his best and freshest. He didn't make me on Saturday night. He made me Monday morning. Intensity. I brace everything I do with a sense of I may not be able to get back here ever again. Intense. Oftentimes I'm told by my peers or those who have associations and relationship with me, and mainly I want to speak and give kudos to my wife. She always says, calm down, relax. But I guess I'm an endless victim of wondering or being suspicious that if I am not on my best, I may miss an opportunity that I've been preparing my whole life for. And I'm one that also subscribes and believes that the exceptional, the miraculous happens when opportunity meets preparation. Everyone that I admire, everyone that is an extended or surrogate mentor in my world, in my reference that has had an influence on me, and I could go through a litany, and I know you would believe Jesus Christ is at the top of that. Then, of course, you got Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, but also A.W. Tozier, R.A. Torrey, Winston Churchill, Coach Vince Lombardi. All these individuals were intense. No matter what you might say about Prince, who we have just lost, you cannot in any way take away from him. He wasn't extremely intense. And that came through in the ethos of his music. You know, I want to just borrow a quick phrase from Coach Lombardi, and he said this. He says, perfection is unattainable, but if we chase perfection, we will ascertain or catch excellence. And I think that we have a vacuum that is wanting because we're not pushing for excellence. These 3, inclusion, investment, intensity, give birth to innovation. And so that's my pursuit. That's my passion. That's the vision I cast. That's what I will spend myself in doing. And it's with that I feel very, very contented, very, very fulfilled, gratified. I have a worth that goes beyond materialism or anything commercial, and that is I was bold enough, brave enough, and had the faith enough to do the other things. Thank you.